Marvel Snap's newest card, Toxin, is so good that it's making itself worse. What do I mean? Let's dive into it. Toxin is a 2/1 that returns the other cards at the location that it's played to your hand and gains +2 power for each of those cards. The reason this is good should be obvious. Bounce is already a very functional deck that has a lot of baseline power and got a big boost this season with Agent Venom. Toxin is, of course, an excellent card in bounce strategies. That's pretty straightforward. However, how is it making the deck worse? Here's the thing. It's putting a big target on bounce. Bounce is a deck that has meaningful and powerful counters. You are going to run into people playing those meaningful and powerful counters because after Toxin comes out, a lot of people are going to be playing bounce. And smart players will be playing things that are specifically designed to beat up on that deck. Cards like Ghost and Invisible Woman, delaying Killmonger and Shadow King are immensely powerful strategies against bounce, and they will beat the crap out of you. I've seen Killmongers out of nearly every shell today. I've seen them out of Wiccan decks. I've seen them out of Scream decks. Everyone is prepared for what the release of Toxin does. This makes Toxin a little bit hard to judge, because I think if you look at the stats, a lot of Toxin decks with bounce cards are going to have worse stats than the non-Toxin decks did last week. And I think a lot of that is down to what are other people playing. I would not be too afraid of that. I tend to think that this card is actually quite solid, is a card you do want in the bounce deck, and if you are a bounce player, it is probably worth picking up. I would make the same comparison that I made for Scorn. If you are a player of the archetype that this card is, you are almost certainly going to want it. When I played it in bounce, it was a meaningful upgrade. However, the meta was hostile enough that I was forced to find other decks for this card. So let's take a look at the decks I played, and then the one that I ended up on that I was the most happy with. First, base bounce. And this is pretty straightforward. My instinct with base bounce is I want to alleviate as much of my weaknesses to Shadow King and, of course, to Killmonger as possible. This means that I want to be a Hitmonkey deck, it means that I want to be a Sage deck. Issue here is that when you're one of these decks, you end up feeling like you're going to lose to one or the other, and you end up especially vulnerable to cards like Ghost and cards like Invisible Woman when you play out your big threats. You are able to play around those cards existing by basically hard reading where they go, but it's not a matchup I would want to opt into any of the time. Putting Mysterio back in does a little bit. One of the things about Killmonger is the more power you have in non-Killmongerable dudes, the more ability you have to actually play around those situations where you would otherwise be dead to Killmonger. Mysterio being able to be 4/4/4 after an Agent Venom is particularly useful. Downside is that it does mean you are almost never going to be able to play your Black Swan Sage bunch of one drops and a Hitmonkey plan. That is a little bit of additional clunk here, but I am tempted to say that this would be my preferred build if I had to play traditional bounce. Luckily for me, I didn't want to play traditional bounce once I figured out what the meta was really doing. So I have a different bounce deck, or even not even like a full bounce deck, that I found a lot of success with. A 60, I want to say 60 something percent win rate, like 63% win rate. I was very happy with it. It took a while, but I was playing against a lot of hard counters, which are actually like, they're not ineffective against what we're talking about here. They're just a little less effective. This is the deck that I had the most success with. And the baseline theory here is, how do we be kind of a bounce deck, but also a deck that gets to play Cosmo? Cosmo goes very well with the move package. Madam Web moving Cosmo is a famously powerful strategy. This list is 11 out of 12 cards based on the deck that used to play Havoc, courtesy of Gnome and Jimmy Dickens, who put the original shell together as a sort of aggro deck to make Havoc work. I took Havoc out, replaced him with Toxin, and Toxin is sort of Cosmo number 2, basically. Toxin is here to help us throw priority. Toxin is here so we can recycle our cards that can, move our stuff around, which is actually quite important a decent amount of the time. Toxin is here so that we are able to keep our guys safe from interaction. He's not always going to do that. You still have the same weaknesses to Invisible Woman Killmonger or Invisible Woman and a Shadow King, but you are much more able to consistently throw priority and interact with those weaknesses thanks to Cosmo and in part thanks to Toxin. Those are both the sort of cards that I view as keeping the big power in this deck safe. Now, as far as the rest of the deck, it's a fairly straightforward application of the move package. What this deck is trying to do is create large numbers of points in a very unfair way, and then lock down the board with Cosmo. It is a pseudo-bounce deck, which is to say you're not really bouncing a lot. You're really just using Toxin to recycle some guys. Hopefully Madam Web lets you sculpt your board such that your best Toxins are there. You have a lot of power here. A lot of good things can happen for you, but it is very difficult to play. I seriously cannot stress this enough. Over the course of my stream, I feel like I misplayed constantly. Messing up Ghost Spider orders, messing up the specific way in which Aranya and Iron Fist work, messing up tons of stuff all of the time. Not only did I mess up a bunch, I also played against a bunch of people that had relevant tech for this matchup, and I still had a 63% win rate, and I frankly consider that a resounding success. Right now, in order to feel good about being a bounce list, or a pseudo-bounce list, or really anything doing anything like this, I do feel like you want to have Cosmo in there. I even thought about trying to just straight up put Cosmo into a bounce list, but really, I think a lot of people will look at this and see, oh, he changed a card in a previous deck. It's the other way around. What I'm trying to do here is be a Cosmo bounce deck. I'm trying to move the deck closer to being that. I also think people are going to want to know about Toxin versus Beast. I felt, honestly, that Toxin was better. I didn't play Beast in here. I haven't played Beast in here. But I was very impressed by not anything specific about the card, like, oh, the power is cool, whatever. The 2 cost is really nice. Being able to just fit the guy into your curve in a better way is so good. There are situations where I think you could try to replace this card with Beast, but Toxin just being like, oh, he's cheap, I can actually just weave him into my curve, whereas a Beast turn on like turn 4 or 5, Beast is most of your energy. And I think that is a relevant thing here. He does give you the discounts on the back end, but this deck isn't so good at setting up the situations where you're beasting stuff that you always want to replay. It's a little bit worse at doing that. And so Toxin, this isn't a pure bounce deck. Toxin ends up being a very good sort of fusion here. It just is a solid card in the deck, and I was pretty surprised consistently by just how good it was. And I'm really understating it here, because like you hit this with an Agent Venom, and it's just actually 10 power most of the time you play it. And I'm realizing that, like, as I'm talking about this, I'm kind of downplaying it. I'm not really talking about that aspect of it, but like, yeah, a 210 is really good. You are very interested in playing 2 10s when you can play 2 10s. Of course, this is still an Agent Venom deck. And I do think that it is, it's hard not to group it with all the other Agent Venom decks, but I do think it is doing something uniquely powerful in this context, being a pseudo-bounce deck with Cosmo, which is how you need to approach a metagame that is so hostile to what this kind of deck is doing, thanks to Toxin's release. So, should you get Toxin? Short and sweet. If you like playing bounce, I think Toxin is going to be a meaningful upgrade to the deck in the long term. If you like winning immediately, I'm not sure playing bounce is the right move right now. That's the fundamental issue that Toxin has. Right now, card just came out, everyone is targeting bounce. I think it's a worse choice than it was before Toxin came out. That's not Toxin's fault. Toxin was a good boy. Toxin's a good card in the deck. But right now, everyone is too focused on beating this for this to be a clearly tier 1 card. However, I do think it has a chance at being an archetype all-star and really sticking with that archetype in a meaningful way. If you like playing bounce, if you are a bounce guy, I think this is likely a purchase you will want to consider. Of course, there is an OTA coming out on Thursday, so please do keep in mind that there are potential balance changes forthcoming. The issue I'm trying to get at, though, is that to me, Bounce is fairly similar to Zoo. Whenever Zoo is the best deck, it can't be the best deck for long because people figure out how to beat it. And Bounce is sort of similar. Whenever there's a big enough target on the back of Bounce, you're going to lose a lot of games just because a bunch of people are 100% favored in the matchup against you. And that's a very tough pill to swallow. If you're going to buy a card, it's a tough pill to swallow that it is so easily and plentifully at this point countered. Basically, Toxin has day one syndrome. I consider this a good card. I would consider purchasing it, and I do think that you should keep that in mind as we go through the week. Figure out what you value in the game, and if you want to be a bounce player, and then focus on that. As always, I do recommend waiting at least until Thursday so we can see what's in the OTA. All right, y'all, thank you so much for making it through that video. We are going to jump into a short amount of gameplay. I want you guys to let me know how you feel about the shorter videos. I've seen some people say that I should be making shorter videos rather than super long content. So this is a video I'm going to try out, maybe 25, 35 minutes total, including this rambling part at the end, I guess. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to get like a couple of games on here. I hope they're helpful for you. This deck is legitimately hard to play, and I truly hope you enjoy watching me totally blow it. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. I've been KM Best. Please remember, like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you think about the format, and I will see you in the next one. And then next turn, I go Ghost Spider Toxin in the middle. How many keys it take me? 1. Isn't Doc bigger? Doc? Then Dagger? No, because it won't actually pull anything. Because the Human Torch move happens before anything else. Move mid and Doc right. Again, the Human Torch move doesn't, like... Could have moved Torch mid first. Oh, you're saying for specifically the Torch. I thought you were saying to double up on the Vulture. Yes, you're correct. That guy especially was playing to beat what we played earlier. We switched to a move deck. Now he's playing a deck that beats move decks. And it's like, what the fuck? I think Agent Venom wants to go on the far right here, matched up against the Bass. Sable. Cosmo there, perfect. I mean, not perfect, but like semi-functional, yeah? Whoa, they snapped me? That feels mean. I don't like that. This winnable. Dagger could get huge. Yeah, but I'm not sure how to make it actually work, right? Try to Cosmo their Mystique. I think that's probably the move. God damn! Which is kind of the problem. The Toxin about this is the exact dumb bullshit I don't want to do. Like, just fucking super metagamed bullshit like that. I don't find any value in it. Do I not want to Agent Venom because of this? Yeah, no, that's actually the kind of stuff that I'd like to see. Did you play Dagger last? That's not really relevant because I didn't play her this turn, but it's worth checking. Is my mic? I don't think it's me, but you might be hearing, Wow, okay. Yep, sick. They have lost tremendously. The game is actually over. Enjoy my cards that are bad. I realize you also have cards that are bad. It does not matter. Are they not going to leave? Can't really figure out why they wouldn't. What the hell beats me here? G-Man left. Doesn't, actually. We gave them a Toxin and a Human Torch. I'm assuming they retreated later. My bad. They actually can't win. They actually are 100% dead. They sniped correctly. No, they're actually 100% dead. It took me a little to figure it out. I was doing my math incorrect. But they actually are dead. Oh my god, I did it again. Why am I so bad at that ordering? Good lord. Whoa, they snapped me? Yikes. Now, granted, they get 0 cards. And I get an actual Ajax. What do we suppose their 1 card is? This is 3 over here. They drew 1 card. What are we thinking it could be? Immense! Oh my god, the immense 8-cuber. Like, they literally have 1 card. This deck doesn't play big shit. It just straight up does not. That was my thought process on how to approach that scenario. All right. We draw a Human Torch, and it's the greatest thing of all time. Oh, we're getting clogged, aren't we? Oh, that's unfortunate. God, we're so getting clogged. This is such a bad stay, but it's so fucking cool. Oh, we're not getting clogged. Interesting. They're just giant Iron Men. I would like to draw either Cosmo or Toxin. Just win, right? Just win. Just win. What is opponent not cooking? I'm more concerned with what they might be cooking. Frankly. Okay, a diamond. Alright, I guess we now know what the number we gotta beat is. One torch goes mid and we win. Cool, we win. Arg. Yep. It's time for them to go. Thank you.